My daughter's favorite artist is the notorious B.I.G. He's infamous for his 10 crack commandments, of which one of them, number two, is never let them know your next move. I swear my daughter lives by that motto, and I'm pretty sure she got that from me. I have done a lot of different things in my career. I've made a lot of non-linear moves. I started my career in enterprise software. I joined a company with a couple of hundred people, and we grew that to 8,000 people and were acquired by Oracle for almost $6 billion. I went to one of the very earliest machine learning companies, started by a Stanford professor, and we applied machine learning to building SaaS software. That was acquired by Walmart Labs. I helped start a two-sided labor marketplace from nothing but slides to raising our Series A. During COVID, I worked on a brand new privacy-preserving protocol to build privacy-focused COVID apps. And last year, I made probably my biggest leap ever, which is moving into the blockchain industry. You may ask yourself, Sunita, how have you done so many different things? Well, besides Biggie's motto, there's another motto I live by, and that's don't check all the boxes. I started my career checking all the boxes, and I kind of grew up that way. But what I've learned since is that checking all the boxes is not the way that really gets you to really exciting things. So I'm going to share today some of the things that I've learned along the way in the hope that it helps you as well. Kind of put my thoughts into 5 C's. The first C is curiosity. I think when I look back at all the things I've done, it's always started with being really clear about what I'm curious about. That curiosity comes from going to webinars or meetups or just having conversations at dinner parties or random people. But what I discovered was that the things that I'm really curious about all relate to the future of work. I grew up in New Zealand and I was lucky to come to the US, and I've worked in some really great companies with really great people in Silicon Valley. But what's always at the back of my mind is that that's not the case for most people, right? Most people really struggle to make a living. And now with technology, we're all becoming obsolete much more quickly. And so helping people figure out how to make a better living and stay relevant and have great jobs, that's something that's really dear to my heart. There's a dozen different ways to pursue that, and I looked at the whole spectrum. I looked at joining the initiatives in large companies. I even thought about starting my own company. And then I started hearing about people in blockchain. And as I listened to them talk about what they were doing, it didn't seem like it was relevant to me because it's very engineering heavy. But then I began to realize this pattern, which is blockchain has the capability to completely transform the way applications, systems, economies, and jobs are done. And that really spoke to me. And with that in mind, I decided that I wanted to pivot my career into the blockchain industry. The second thing I've learned as I reflect on how I've been able to do so many different things is that I've always leaned heavily on my community. Right? There's no way that I could have made any of these changes alone. Each time I've made a move, whether it was to the machine learning company or this move to blockchain, there's always been at least a dozen people who've helped me make that move. There's probably been a lot of talks at this conference about networking and how that's really important. That's not really news for us. So I'm not going to talk a lot about networking, but I will share a few things that have been helpful for me. So the first thing that I found really helpful, and I have to remind myself of this all the time, is to start talking to people well before you're ready. I tend to be someone who prepares and over prepares before any presentation or even a talk or interviewing a candidate for a job. I always prepare a lot. But when making these kinds of moves, I found it's really important to just start talking to people, even if you don't know all of the language, you don't know all the jargon, you really feel clueless. It's kind of like that concept of playing exhibition matches, right? Play lots of small exhibition matches and you get better really quickly. The second thing I found is that not to filter myself. So I felt that sometimes I was talking to people and being like, could this person be helpful? Would they be interested? Would they be interested in what I'm interested in? What I've found is that assume everyone's interested in, just talk about genuinely what you're curious about, and good things happen. To kind of double click on that a little bit, I was at a kid's birthday party, and the person next to me asked me, how they do. What do you do? And where do you work? And I kind of started that conversation. And then I talked to them about what I was really interested in. And that person was like, I know somebody else who's thinking about exactly the same thing. Let me make an intro. And they made an intro for me to a VP at one of the FANG companies. And it was like one of the best coffee conversations I had. Separately, somebody else, it's a B2B SaaS VC, right? Only invests in B2B SaaS. And when we caught up again, he asked me what I was interested in, and I told him I'm really interested in blockchain. And out of that conversation, he introduced me to that one blockchain company that he had invested in, and it was a really quality company. So I would say don't filter. You never know, right? Who might be able to connect with that enthusiasm and passion that you have. And then the last thing is this tactic that a friend of mine taught me, which is you can download all of your contacts from LinkedIn into a spreadsheet. And then so I did that, and then I added 2 columns, and in each one, the first column was how well does this person know me? Do they like me? Are they fond of me? And the second column was how much can this person help me with this new thing that I'm trying to learn? Kind of high, medium, low. And then I kind of sorted that spreadsheet and just used that as a way to start reaching out to people in my network. This third C, I think, is a little bit controversial. So I know this audience, there's a tremendous amount of talent here. And I want a quick show of hands. And the question I have for you is, have you ever BS'd your way through an interview? I'm pretty sure that a lot of hands are going up. Right? You're able to probably convince anybody of anything if you put your effort to it. So my third C is really convince yourself first. Don't start going to interviews and convincing other people. Spend the time to convince yourself first. Ask yourself, do I really want to do this? And do I really think I could be successful doing this? When I made this last move into blockchain, I spent a ton of time building my own conviction. I wasn't interviewing at all. Some of the ways I did it, I actually ended up working for a DAO part-time, unpaid for about 3 months as a volunteer, and I ran for election, and I really got to know the culture and the atmosphere and the way of working in this industry of Web3, which is really different from the traditional companies that I'd been used to. I did CS50, which is Harvard's online first-year computer science class, to test whether I was really excited about low-level computing concepts. I spent a ton of time questioning people. I called engineers. The biggest question I had was, is this industry ready for PMs? Like, is it too early? Do they just need engineers? Do they need people like me? And so I asked that question to engineers. I went to ETH Denver, which is a really big conference for this space, and I sat next to complete strangers. I asked them my questions, and then I wrote a lot to kind of get my thoughts out on paper, to really think much more clearly, and also to invite comment and suggestions from other people. My friends during this phase were like, how's your interviewing going? Are you still interviewing? Like 3 months later, like, are you still interviewing? And I was like, yeah, still interviewing, but I wasn't interviewing at all. What I was doing was building my own conviction. The fourth C that I wanted to talk about is, as you move through it, what I found was at some point you start wavering, right? You're like, when you get that call to take that interview or to meet with that investor, you're like, maybe I want to bail, right? That morning when you wake up to do it, you're like, I don't know that I really want to do this. I don't know that I really can do this. So at that time, it's important, I think, and what I found useful was, I spent some time writing down a list of my transferable skills. Like we all have a whole stack of experience and transferable skills. And you kind of write that down and put it up on the wall. So on those days when you really feel a little bit like you're going to waver, you can remind yourself of that. I think when we look at ourselves as product managers, what we need to remember is in any job you've ever done, being a PM has never, ever been about knowing everything, right? Our role is a lot more like what this diagram is showing, which is, our role is about knowing some stuff, but then leveraging what others around us know as well. The last C that I wanted to talk about was courage, right? It is scary to make this move. It is scary to um, jump into a territory that's completely unknown. But I have to say, right, genuinely, that when you're moving towards something that you're really passionate about, when you have that conviction, it's like the best thing in the world when you start to move the needle on something that you care about. And on those days when things are really hard and things are not going well, on those days, that conviction that you've built, it will see you through. I want to end with this very last slide, right? My kids will kill me for showing this slide because I show it to them all the time. But I love this slide, right? The point it makes is a lot of things got you to where you are today. And it doesn't matter where you are today, whether you love that place or like that place or hate that place. The point that this chart is making is that where you go from here is entirely up to you. And I think that's amazing. In a few minutes, we have a live discussion starting. I look forward to seeing some of you there and have it that's unrecorded, so off the record. And I look forward to seeing you later at this conference, at another conference, maybe in real life at a meetup. And when I see you, I really hope that you'll come over and talk to me, and then you'll be, "Hey, Sunita, guess what? I'm stopped checking all the boxes." And I'll say, "Good for you. I'm not checking all the boxes either." I wish you complete success. Hope to see you soon.